So it's always a good idea to run away to Paris. Not Paris, Kentucky, though. Paris, France. No offense to Paris, Kentuckians. I just can't speak to that. So it's always a good idea to run away to Paris, but it's a great idea to run away to Paris at the end of your marriage. So this was a few years ago, and I wish I could say that there was a bad guy and there was a good guy, or that he was wrong and I was right. I would love to be able to say he was wrong and I was right. But the truth is, we had just grown apart after about 8 years of marriage. It was just little decisions every day that moved us further away from each other. But the rockiest decision was that I decided to marry the boy I fell in love with when I was 15 years old. So picture it, Butler High School, 2000. And me and my friend are at a basketball game, Male versus Butler. And I look at her and I'm like, it is time that I got a boyfriend. And later that night, I would meet that boy that I mentioned earlier. Because you see, I was an overachiever, okay? When I set goals, I made those goals happen. Because for me, my life had a prescription. It was a prescription that was written out by all the TV that I watch, right? I watch so much TV, right? And all these girls on these TV shows that I loved, Jessie Spano from Saved by the Bell, and Laura Winslow from Family Matters, and even DJ Tanner from Full House, they were all like smart girls that were high achievers, and they had boyfriends, right? And I figure, I had just gotten my contacts. I wasn't bad looking. I was really I wasn't really popular. I was popular with a certain crowd, right? But I was like, I think I'm a catch, right? I should get a boyfriend. They all have boyfriends. But I never stopped to ask myself and truthfully answer the question, is this what I want? Because I thought that to be able to survive in life, to be able to thrive in life as a Black girl and eventually a Black woman, I needed to follow the prescription because life was already going to be hard enough. And I also, not only did I want a boyfriend, I wanted a husband one day, right? I wanted a family life that I didn't grow up with. Because my parents have been together for 40 years, but they were not married when I was younger, and they lived in separate houses. And having to explain that situation to my classmates, particularly in elementary school, and one of them said, well, is he even your dad? And going through all that, I was like, I don't want that life for the kids I'm supposed to have. I want love, marriage, and baby carriage. And I didn't stop to ask myself, do you want a boyfriend? What if you want a girlfriend? Do you want kids? Do you like kids? And I always had this deep, needling depression that I know for a fact I had because I took a 17 magazine quiz, middle school, high school, and it was, are you depressed? And I added up my little circles, and it was like, yeah, I'm depressed. But I kept all that down because that wasn't what I was supposed to do. That wasn't what my life was supposed to be. I didn't believe in myself to ask myself, is this what you really want? And to trust that it would be okay if I said no. So eventually I married that now adult man who I met when I was 15. And we were both just so different from one another by the time that we walked down the aisle. And that little needling depression had turned into a big monster depression that threatened to really take me under. Even though I was following everything I thought I was supposed to do, I was unhappy. I was floundering. I didn't know who I really was when you take away the accolades and the marriage and all of that stuff I thought was important. So it's the end of 2019, and me and him both know that this is probably the end. So I'm talking with my two best friends since high school, on Facebook Messenger. And they're just like, oh my God, we're here for you, woo, bitch, what do you want to do? What do you need from us, right? Bitch is a term of endearment for us, okay? And I was like, I could really use a girls' trip. And they're like, bitch, where? And so then I said, Paris, France. There are two reasons why I said that, okay? So first, I had always had this secret love of France and everything French since I first took French class in 8th grade, right? It was just a language that riddled me and challenged me and interested me. And the food seemed great, right? But I also said Paris, France because I thought they would say no. Because I was scared. I didn't really want to go to Paris, France. I didn't know what to do. But you can't tell your best friends that you want to do something because they were like, okay then, bitch, we're going to Paris. So the next thing I know, I've downloaded Duolingo. I'm taking some lessons. Me and my best friend that lives here in Louisville, we're driving up to Indianapolis to catch a direct flight. We're in Charles de Gaulle. Our friend from Washington, D.C. meets us there, and I'm in fucking Paris, France. And it was winter. It was January 2020, right? And, yeah. And even though it was cold, the air just was crisp and it felt better than winter in Louisville. I was like, this is awesome. And oh my gosh, the food was amazing. The flaky, buttery croissants and the tart little lemon meringue deals that you would get at a bakery, and the eclairs, and s'il vous plaît, keep bringing it. But the biggest thing for me when I was over there is I took the very basic French that I'd learned off and on ever since 8th grade and was interacting with people, interacting with cashiers and shopkeepers. And we weren't having any political debates, other than the guy who saw that we were Black Americans and said, oh, Barack Obama. And I was like, yeah, But I was doing it. I was surviving and thriving and having fun in a place that speaks a different language, and I was still okay. I didn't crumble. I had a great time. So the Monday after I got back to Louisville, I was in an attorney's office drawing up a petition to divorce, because that trip showed me that I am strong, and that the things that I want, even though they might be different than what I thought I needed, are okay. I believed in myself for the first time in a long time, maybe ever. So you noticed I said we went to Paris in January 2020. So then March 2020 happened, and COVID is here. So that means that the house that my separated with husband and I are trying to sell, nobody's wanting to buy anything because they're scared. So that means we're living together. 0 out of 10, do not recommend living with the person you're actively trying to divorce. And you're trying to buy your own house as well. It's, but I made it through. Because during that time when I couldn't go outside, I had to turn inward more than I ever had before and believe in myself that I could get this divorce, that I could sell this house, that I could buy my own house. And I did. I bought a house and I painted walls pink and purple, and I hung up nothing but art from women, by women, and as I was in this house with my dogs and we still can't go outside, I had time to look inward even more. And I said, am I gay? And I was like, yeah. I'm in here by myself. I'm doing a lot of thinking. I'm doing a lot of TikToking. I found myself on lesbian TikTok. It was very informative. Yeah, and I was like, ooh, this checks. Like, ooh, why did I like Xena Warrior Princess so much? Not stereotypes, but I was really into the WNBA. I was like, men, gross, But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't believe in myself. So now, I have my house. I have my dogs. Still single, but that's okay. And I'm preparing myself for another trip to Paris. And this time, I think I'm going to go by myself. I know I can do it. Thank you.